and talking action from conservative candidates and their supporters. I just want to know why. But first, let's check the latest poll numbers on the hardball scoreboard. We start with the Senate race in Nevada. Sharon Angle now leads Harry Reid by just 4 in that Las Vegas Review-Journal poll. That's 49-45, close enough to hurt. In Wisconsin, it's Republican Ron Johnson, the self-financer, as I say, 4 points above Russ Feingold. He may be closing there. Look, he's closer than he's been. Now to California. The new field poll, that's the big poll out of the Chronicle out there, has Boxer up by 8, looking comfortable for the incumbent finally over Carly Fiorina, 49-41. Alaska, look at this. This is the one we've been talking about, the Hayes Research Poll. Catch these numbers. 34% of respondents said they're going to vote for the write-in candidate, which especially means, in this case, well, it does mean Lisa Murkowski. She's the write-in candidate. Then you look at McAdams, the Democrat, in second place at 29. And then Miller, the favorite of the Tea Party, who won the primary up there at 23. So he's dropped to 3rd, if you believe these numbers. The tricky part is, again, the write-in candidate has to get somebody to say, I'm going to write your name in, a little harder than just pushing a button. In Florida, Marco Rubio has built a big lead now in the Mason-Dixon poll. He's up at 45. He's getting close to 50. It's almost a knockout, a shutout, if you will. He's up to 45 now. Charlie Crist, 28, not good. Even with if Meek and he get together, it's going to be a close one. If they put their 28 and 21 together, it's a close one. We'll continue to check the hardball scoreboard on all the big races each night leading up to November 2nd, which is coming on pretty fast. Now let's get physical. As we said in the old song, the Huffington Post Howard Fineman. There's the he's an MSNBC analyst as well as a Huffington Post reporter. And Joan Walsh is the editor-in-chief of Salon.com. Well, that's an old song, and it's funny, but it's not funny. Here we have this crazy stuff. Let's start with the video from outside the Kentucky debate this week. Let's watch and listen and judge. If we were on the jury, and there's going to be a jury trial here, a criminal case it looks like, what kind of a punishment would you assign this perp? Let's listen and watch. Stopper. His name's Tim Proffitt, P-R-O-F-I-T-T, told the local radio station out there, WKYT, that he feared for Rand Paul's safety. I'm going to let you start with this, Joan, because I know you'll find this outrageous. It just seems to me that that guy's instinct was a bit stormtrooper-ish, to put it lightly. It was to hurt. You know, there's been a lot of defense of him saying he just was trying to bring her down. He was just trying to hold her down there, Chris. He put his foot, a lot of people are saying the foot was on the shoulder. The foot went straight. You saw it from the shoulder to the head. Can you imagine being that poor woman? Now, maybe she got a little close to Rand Paul's car. I don't know all those details, but she did not look like a threat, and she did not deserve to have her head stomped by a Rand Paul volunteer. And I just don't think enough attention has been paid to this. I think it's very, very dangerous, very sobering, and people should be denouncing this. I'm going to have a commentary on this at the end of the show, Howard, because I think there's a certain whiff of something here I don't like, which is this evidence of going operational. These are supposed to be just supporters. They go into this fighting mode, this street tough mode here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they did it against a woman who was engaging in some street theater there. With a wig on. With a wig on, who, you know, is no physical threat to Rand Paul. And, you know, having worked in Kentucky and known that place and know a lot of people there, it's nothing special about Kentucky, but you know, it's a hard-fought battle with a lot of nasty stuff, and this is true all over the country. Very nasty things saying. Don't forget, Chris, that virtually every ad that's been on television, every message from every candidate all year this year has been negative. There's been very little positive advertising on anything. So one reason that... He's crunching her there. Okay, well, it's a short hop, step, and a jump from calling somebody evil or unpatriotic or basically inhuman. The sanctions already there. The sanctions are there verbally in these ads. Well, let's take a look at this. Here's Miller up there, Joe Miller, who may not even get in first or second place up there for Alaska. He hires these military guys. They're apparently some of the guys who were actually in our country's service at the time. He has something to do with the militia group up there. He apparently posts regularly on this group up there with this group. Here he is with his guards. This does again remind me of the 1930s. These guys, let's take a look at this. These guys have a video video of, I mean, we're going to show it to you, of these guys. I've never heard of politicians hiring a bunch of military guys to be their supposedly, you know, group of Hell's Angels, whatever, defenders. Look at them all. They're guarding a whole, look at, it is an amazing group of things. I've never seen so much of this, and then we're going to see more of this. Joan, your thoughts about, you've covered campaigns. I've never seen teams of paramilitary being hired to work in a political campaign.
I've never seen anything like it. You know, I haven't seen reporters handcuffed for asking questions, Chris. You know, and Lisa Murkowski is trying to make something of this, and as well she should. This doesn't happen in America. You do not detain reporters for asking questions. In that case, there wasn't even a remote threat to the candidate. The threat would be maybe asking questions, obviously.
All right, let's take a look at the Murkowski ad taking advantage of this. Maybe she's going to make some headway out of this. Let's listen.
Joe Miller's answer to freedom of the press? Arrest the journalists. Joe Miller's answer to illegal immigration? Use East Germany as an example. Exactly what kind of America does Joe Miller live in? It's time for a return to common sense. Time to return Lisa Murkowski to Washington.
I'm Lisa Murkowski, and I approve this message.
Well, you know, throw in that to some East Coast action from Palladino, the Tea Party running for governor of New York, telling a reporter he's going to take him out in a sort of a gangland message. I'm going to knock you out in a gang. You're going to wake up Saturday morning in the river somewhere. I'm going to take you out.
Okay, well, that's just New York. Okay,
oh, come on, there's not a person who saw that, didn't see that as a physical threat.
I know.
Come on,
he's going to talk to Rupert Murdoch about the guy's job.
No, I agree. First of all, the other thing that's going on here is that, especially on the Republican side, everybody's running against the press. I mean, and
yes.
It started out as a benign tactic, but it's not benign anymore. And for a lot of the hardcore supporters of Republican candidates, verbal attack after verbal attack after verbal attack on the press is part of their thing. And
okay, how about Engel saying she's not going to do any interviews with NBC and
she's
CBS?
Proudly so she's saying that, because this is an emblem of her thinking. And so you put those together with a
She's never done this yet, though. She hasn't done what Palladino did up in New York. Let's take a look at what he threatened there. Let's take a look at that one.
Go ahead, ask me a question. Do you have any evidence for the charge you made?
At the appropriate time, you'll get it.
This guy's the Attorney General of New York.
And you're his stalking horse, Fred Dick. You're his stalking horse.
What's the evidence?
You're his bird dog.
You made the charge.
You send another goon to my daughter's house and I'll take you out, buddy.
You're going to take me out?
Yeah.
How are you going to do that?
Watch.
Okay. How do you not laugh?
Come on.
Oh, I'm laughing, but here's Sharon Angle with a radio host, Lars Larson. He's a bit of a conservative. Let's see what she had to say to him. This is back in January. Let's listen to her theories about the Constitution, how it works its way through our democracy. Let's listen.
You know, our founding fathers, they put that Second Amendment in there for a good reason, and that was for the people to protect themselves against a tyrannical government. In fact, you know, Thomas Jefferson said it's good for a country to have a revolution every 20 years. I hope that's not where we're going, but, you know, if this Congress keeps going the way it is, people are really looking toward those Second Amendment remedies. They're saying, my goodness, what can we do to turn this country around? And I'll tell you, the first thing we need to do is take Harry Reid out.
Wait a minute, just a thought here. Suppose she wins, and she could easily win next Tuesday. She's going to the United States Senate, which she has openly threatened with armed attack by her people if they don't vote the right way. Listen to her. There is no other meaning to the people are looking to those Second Amendment remedies if this Congress keeps going the way it's going, Joan. Those are the words. You know, we've made a mistake in the past. I don't want to compare it to Hitler, but we've made a mistake in the past of not reading and listening to people when they're seeking public power before they get there. She's pretty open about her attitudes.
She's open about it, and you know, you had a Republican candidate for Congress in Dallas, Texas last week say something similar about revolution. You know, these people, what I don't really understand, Chris, is, look, I may not like it, but some of them are doing very well at the polls. They're using our great American system. They're making their case. Some of them will be elected, and yet they're at the same time discrediting our great American system and threatening, if they don't get their way, that we might need Second Amendment remedies and we might need a revolution because we had this president elected that they apparently despise. It is disturbing.
What amazes me is that Harry Reid, the Democratic leader of the Senate, may lose to that person.
Who's talking gunplay.
Who's talking gunplay, essentially. I mean, it's,
well,
we shouldn't
here we go again. I don't know if this is fair. You can decide if this is fair. Here's the Ohio congressional candidate, Rich Ayotte, in his uniforms. Now, of course, he likes to dance around in a Nazi uniform. I don't know anybody that does that. I know people that love Civil War reenactments. My son did one. My brother loves this stuff. They're Civil War nuts, but I don't know anybody who's a Nazi nut. And there's John Boehner apparently campaigning for him this weekend, joining hands with this guy, saluting him, if you want, although I don't think he knows the right salute, thank God.
Yeah,
what do you think of Boehner going out there and holding hands with this character? I mean, these people, you can do anything you want on weekends. You can play tiddlywinks, you can go bowling. He chooses to put on a Nazi uniform on weekends. That's a choice.
And tells us that it's not really about admiring the Nazi party, but it's about admiring what they did militarily, which is ridiculous. It reminded me of when Louis Farrakhan called Hitler wickedly great, Chris. Can you imagine? I mean, can you imagine somebody saying that about Nazism on the Democratic side? I mean, it's just mind-boggling. And John Boehner ought to know better. He just really, really wants to be Speaker very badly, and he's not going to let a little bit of Nazism stand in his way.
You know, I'm trying to think if politics is symmetric, and I don't think it is. I can't imagine if you had, for example, a pro-life protester, and they're pretty graphic, you know, they're pretty good at it. They show teddy bears the kid will never hug, and I'm very sympathetic to that point of view, if not the politics. And if anybody ever grabbed one of those nicely turned out pro-lifers who was getting in the face of a liberal candidate and stomp them, it would be the biggest story in the world.
Right.
There's a difference in the two sides. When a right-winger does it, it's, I guess he had a hard day, or he thought that this person was a threat to his candidate. We're beginning to ignore the fact they're wearing Nazi uniforms, they're arresting people, they're threatening to take them out, and stomping them, and all this stuff seems to be going on. Everybody doesn't put it together. Wait a minute, there's a pattern here.
Well, I think they're different categories of offenses here. I'm not sure, and I haven't heard. I'll listen to what you say.
You don't see a theme here?
No. What I see as the theme is the rough edge of American politics right now, which has been dragged very hard to the right.
How about the fringe has always been there, but because of bad times, people are actually nominating these people. Right. There's always been a Sharon Angle. There's always been a Carl Palladino.
And I think if you look at history, I'm sure there have been times over the last 75, 80 years when sometimes on the left there was some rough stuff over the years in the past. If you want to go back to the 30s, if you want to go back various parts of what was going on during the Great Depression, okay?
But they were clashing with the Pinkertons. They weren't going after
machines and so forth.
There was labor strife.
Yeah, and you know, there's some things, not nice things that happened on election day.
I sense it's asymmetric this year. Maybe the anger's all on one side.
I'm not saying it isn't this year, but if you look at history.
Last thought, Joan, I think it's peculiar to one side this year. Certainly.
I think it's extremely unbalanced, and it's on the one side. I can't think of another example of a Democratic congressional or Senate candidate at this point using any kind of these tactics. So I'm not totally comfortable with this kind of. Both sides do it, Howard.
Well, I'm just saying, if you look at history,
I'm sure we can
examples.
Yeah, we don't know all the way back, do we? Anyway, thank you, Howard Fineman. You're right. You're right, but not now. Anyway, thank you, John Walsh. Thank you, Howard Fineman.
I'll be thinking of you in Arlington this weekend at the World Series.
Okay. Well, you know, I never did like expansion teams, especially when they're run by George W. Bush. Just thought, but you know what? The Phillies had a very good year. They played really well, and they lost to a team that had a very good championship season. I think the Giants have been playing really well. There's no shame in losing to a good team.
Just remember,
Philly fans, you got 3 times in a row they've been in the game. That's something.
Absolutely.
Fear the beard. Fear the beard.
Anyway, tomorrow, watch, when we get the pitching and the batting together in 1 year, look out. And tomorrow, watch our documentary, Rise of the New Right, for an in-depth look at what's going on in the conservative fringe of this country. We're very proud. This is hour-long tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern. Get the full picture, guns and all. Up next.